All right, and welcome to Outbreak Breakout Pandemic Podcast. My name is Keith, here once again with my buddies through the miracle of computer phone, Chuck
Hey now.
and John.
Aloha, everyone.
There was a moment of non-pandemic panic in my mind when I started saying the name of the podcast. I briefly blanked. I was like, I know it's not Fastbreak Breakfast. I know there's Breakout. Whew.
Welcome to Dunked on Pandemic.
Are you guys getting a COVID daily news dunked on shirt? I would like to make them.
Are they doing one? What is their universe doing right
Nate Duncan has started a COVID daily podcast, and he uses the same dunked on font for like the podcast art. And if thousands of people weren't dying, I would make myself a hat, and I would sell like the COVID daily or whatever, COVID daily news or something, but in the dunked on font. The dunked on font brings it into complete farce where it's so funny. Like, I know this is horrible and they're trying sincerely to do a good thing, but that hat is funny to me.
Are Danny and Nate sitting holding hands wearing Pistol Pete Maravich jerseys watching CNN press conferences?
I'm not certain what it all is. I know it's with a friend of our show, Ben Taylor is a part of it. So like, I like Ben Taylor a lot.
Let's socially distance ourselves from Ben Taylor until I can get a better look at this.
It's just the artwork that really takes it to the next level for me.
I got a question. Have they formulated an advanced metric for COVID yet?
They probably do. They're probably acronyms for things, and I don't know what they are.
Yeah, death after over replacement or something.
I mean, there's got to be whatever the rate positive return or the test results.
I had to go look at the font.
It didn't. There's no way it disappointed.
Wow.
So here our COVID daily update. My wife has a theory that, like, notwithstanding a famous Nashvilleian who just passed, she thinks that Nashville is doing relatively okay in the grand scheme of the world because a tornado hit us and everyone stayed inside and didn't go to school for the week before the pandemic.
Right.
So I don't know, but keep doing what you're doing, Nashville. Don't go anywhere.
Chuck and I are familiar with a few businesses that are probably going to stay in business only because they got leveled by a tornado.
Yeah. There's
really?
music venues. There's music venues in town. There's one specifically, the Basement East, that got destroyed. And if that didn't happen, they would have had to have suffered through 3 months of no show, maybe 6 months of no shows. And they instead got a tornado check. So I'd imagine there's some benefit to having multiple disasters back to back for Nashville.
If you're going to have multiple disasters, I guess put them side by side. I mean, maybe that were. I mean, there's probably plenty of examples where that's a terrible idea.
Yes.
But so far in Nashville, the tornado wrecking the community, canceling the schools, keeping everyone at home, closing some businesses where they got insurance checks or FEMA checks, and then now pandemic comes through and shuts down the economy. It worked out for a couple people.
We had a little practice. It was like a training camp for COVID.
Oh,
that
yeah.
tornado.
So how are you guys doing? This is now like day 25 of no NBA. This is day 26 of me being with my children in the same room from sunup to a little past sundown. It's not awesome here, but in the grand scheme of the world, I mean, it's awesome. I live in comfort and in ease in the relative scheme of things. How are you guys doing?
I've read 9 books. 3 of them are in French. I don't speak French. Today I started reading a book. Got to about the 10th chapter, realized I have already read this book during this crisis. So starting to think I'm cracking up.
What's the best book you've read? What's the best of those? Do you recommend any of those?
The best one would be called "I Was Dora Suarez" by Derek Raymond.
All right,
it's part of the Factory series. I started rereading the first book of the Factory series today, and I was like, these books are way too similar. These are just really, I thought this guy was a good writer, but this is really, really similar. And then something happened in the book, and I was just like, Oh, this is the. I've already read this book. I read this book last week. So yeah, I want to create like excuses. I used to be excellent at creating reasons to leave the house. Like if like my girlfriend was home for like 4 hours at a time, and I was like, oh, this is too much time to be spending together. I could find a reason to go just walk the aisles of Kroger.
Right. Yeah.
The local supermarket. Today, I went to pick up groceries at Kroger, just doing the pull into the lane thing, and then they bring the groceries out. Huge lines for that.
Right.
Every spot in the grocery store parking lot taken. And when you call the number, once you finally get a spot, they tell you that they are like eight hours behind.
So I've
getting you the
never
groceries, which is
I've never done
horrifying.
the groceries online order, and
Right.
I went to check it out, but it's like a 5-day turnaround, and so I was like, maybe one of these days. I do know when this is all over, I'm probably never going shopping again. I'm just going to do the curbside. Like, oh wow, I can just click all the candy I want and drive up, and they just give it to me.
Sure.
Seems way
Pushed us
better.
to tomorrow, but it was really scary to see that many humans at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen the parking lot that full. It was like pre-Super Bowl Sunday. And I get it. People with kids. I mean, I really feel like you guys are feeling this a lot worse. I'm noticing that people with kids are losing their minds.
Well,
And they'll do
last
anything.
week
They'll
I-
risk their livelihood. They'll risk their children's lives to take them to the park to be around other kids so they can have a moment of peace.
I did, man. I walked past a like a party, and I don't know if it was like 4 families that were all social distancing together. Maybe that's like
I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, no, it wasn't.
they weren't. Yeah, but it was a bunch of children and like 4 parents. You know, it seemed like 4 separate units. A lot of people. But anyway, Chuck, how are you dealing?
I've turned it around.
In your
last 2 weeks were
Yeah?
dark and desperate, and I've committed to a routine. I've got a Google spreadsheet that I've set a schedule up hour by hour up until 7 o'clock every day that I'm filling my time with.
That's
One
a
of
good
those
point.
hours was just for me, buddy.
Yeah, well, you had 30 minutes. Don't get crazy. But yeah, like I'm scheduling times to call people. You know, I'm reaching out and like trying to connect digitally and making an effort to maintain some sort of. I'm cooking more. I'm making breakfast, lunch, and dinner instead of just like ramen noodles. I'm like cooking actual meals because it takes an hour to cook, clean, eat, and clean. So that's like, oh, cool. I have an hour that I've now filled in my day. I'm meditating. It's going in a positive direction. The first 2 weeks were kind of gross, man. I just couldn't figure it out. But now I got a good rhythm. And
I have friends who live in Chuck's building who are calling me being like, hey, Chuck don't look so good.
yeah, I was in a bad place, you know. I was. You know, you
I
lose
really
your
haven't
job
struggled.
and you're like out of it, you know.
I haven't struggled in the short term with it. My struggles come when I focus on the long term.
Yeah. Well, you only do 2 days, no way,
Yeah.
you know.
We got to
okay.
get Michael Mann on this thing and start doing our time on our own time.
I love the idea. I should be scheduling out more things for my kids and just for myself, or just like if I like, because I'm with the kids and I feel like for the lack of thinking of something else to do, like even if they're entertaining themselves, I'm just constantly checking my phone, which is miserable. I really should like schedule out like what thing am I going to distract myself with while I'm actively watching my children. Like 9 to 10 a.m. I'm just gonna carry a book around, and I'm only looking at that book if I'm gonna distract myself, or like 10 to 12 something. I gotta mix it up something.
I'm leaving
to entertain
my phone
my.
on the other side of the room when I do things.
I gotta get rid of the phone. I think
it's a distraction machine. It's built to create misery, and it's become my enemy. But I also have to utilize it in order to connect with humans that I love. So it is a delicate balance.
Keith, you have 2 children. I feel like you have an advantage over Chuck to where you could create an arena for gladiatorial combat out of your various couches and stick the children within the couches, and there you have sport.
Yep.
Something you could wager upon.
Yeah.
They are certainly taking up each other's time. Your wife's in the medical field, so if one of them happens to really ground and pound the other. You can get them back up and running. So you can get them back in the ring.
Where I know we're supposed to be social distancing, but we're also supposed to be just staying out of hospitals as much as we can. So like our kids are like riding these like bikes, these like little kid bikes down the driveway, and I'm like, let's go slow. Because we don't want to get hurt. Because we don't want to go we don't want to have to go anywhere. It's like the weird thing where it's like I would normally let them wrestle, but when like the 2-year-old gets on the back of the couch to jump, I'm like, let's not do this now.
Yeah, let's stay away from unnecessary hospital trips.
But it is rough because man, the kids are stir crazy, and like I told myself 25 days ago, I was like 75 days at home, let's do this. And I was doing pretty good through like, all right, hey, day 15 is 75. We got this. But now it's like day 26 is 75. I'm like, oh my God, there's 49 more days. And there's no park open. I know we can go to we walk around like the one park. I'm going to have to drive them somewhere, like drive out to the woods or something.
Imagine, if you would, the world's fattest Jimmy Stewart in the Alfred Hitchcock movie Rear Window. And that is me on my back porch. But instead of Raymond Burr choking his wife to death, it's 3 20-year-old co-eds making their own workout classes.
Right.
Yeah.
How do they have a YouTube? Do you want to plug the YouTube? Do we have a channel for them?
I feel like I should make a YouTube of them, but there might be some some sort of new law that prohibits.
Yeah, there might be
that's
law.
stalking. I think that's stalking.
I believe so.
Okay, it might just be IP theft if you're stealing their show by filming their show from your yard. Anyway, have we had breakfast, guys? Any breakfast to speak of either today or Chuck? What do you have?
I cooked some breakfast tacos today, and I had some chicken thighs that I like bulk cooked, because you can't buy 2 chicken thighs, you have to buy the whole thing. So there was like 8 servings of chicken, so I bulk cooked it out, and I made some chicken tacos with some scrambled eggs, which is both the mother and the child for breakfast. It went both ways. And then I was feeling a little itchy, so I went and got a donut from East Park Donuts right around the corner from my house, which you can order from an app. They bring it out. You can pay from your phone. They'll bring it out to you with gloves and all that stuff. Got a coffee.
They should just throw that sucker at you.
Yeah, as you're driving by.
They shouldn't even come out of the door. They should throw that at you. If you catch it, you gotta buy. If you don't catch it, you gotta buy another one.
Yeah. So I got some brown buttered donuts, salted with salt on it.
So Chuck, I actually had that on Saturday. I got one of the brown butter and salt ones.
So good.
But that was the first time I actually left my house. Like Saturday morning, I drove the youngest child out, and like that's the first time I literally left my neighborhood. But I went to East Park, ordered the donuts, had them bring it out. Shout out East Park, hanging in there. Lost their sign in a tornado, but they're
they're
hanging in. But yeah, John, you have a breakfast?
I'm continuing this slouch towards healthiness with just more yogurt, gentlemen, more low-fat yogurt. This wasn't Swedish or Scandinavian yogurt. This was just boring low-fat yogurt. It had like a separate part. It had like a partition and then like a little ramekin of like fruit gunk that you could slam over it. But I've been burned by these because it basically is just sweet sauce.
Yeah.
Sweet sauce. Yeah. I don't want any sweet sauce. I'm more of the savory persuasion. So I got my own dang raspberries because we're buying fruits. We're buying fruits around these parts, and we're trying desperately not to let them rot or go to the incredibly expensive composting bin I got Allie that we have yet to use. So I put my own.
We had one of those for 2 weeks, by the way.
What's that?
I said we had one of those for 2 weeks. And it's going to compost, and we're like, you know what? We can level. We're not doing this. Yeah.
I introduced my son to composting this week, and when he went to take a number 2, he said he was a compost machine.
Yeah, I was about to say, is he just regressing? Is he just going in his pants again? You just roll him in the sunlight. But yeah, I'm eating pretty healthy. I'm trying to have breakfast every day. Although I won't lie, sometimes I just slip straight into some like ridiculous wrap, some Luncheon wrap.
Nothing wrong with that, man.
Because I'm sleeping so late. You guys are getting up early, right?
I've got my schedule starting at 8 a.m. every day.
Oh, you'd be disgusted with me.
Yeah.
Woke up at a strong 12:30 today.
That's my boy.
Wow. That's impressive. No, my kids have been sleeping in a little bit, normally like 7:30 or 8, but not today. Today was 6:30 a.m. They were up, so not great. Those were our breakfasts. After our breakfasts, we move to our breakfast in bed apologies. This is our chance to make right what we might have gotten wrong on any previous episode. It is frequently the first time we talk about the NBA, which this podcast used to be about, but no longer really is. Anyway, does anyone have anything that they would like to apologize for?
So last week, John Burr brought to my attention, this isn't basketball related, but the frequency at which I touch my nose during a video broadcast is disturbing, and I apologize to anyone who that has triggered through this coronavirus pandemic. If it's making you nervous for my health, don't worry. I'm taking all sorts of multivitamins to help ease my anxiety.
You say touched, I say molested and tunneled.
I was digging into my nose. Allergy season's real.
We've been releasing these video casts to our Patreon supporters, but Patreon supporters might have noticed, not last week, I burned it. Just lit that video on fire.
Too gross? Too grotesque?
It's just too gross. But anyway.
My apologies similar. I looked at a couple of our videos and I was like, man, does it look like this dude's just posting up in a corner of his home? Because I am. But I'm trying to put
it looks nice now.
Some decor back there. I can't match Keith's full-on Pau Gasol dunking on fools with isometric, plyometric imagery going on behind it. But I got some weird hats now. I got some.
5 minutes, you could frame that shot so much better, Keith. You could put our whole logo in it. You could put Shaq. There you go. There you go, bud.
Just the video for anyone
2
watching.
seconds.
There's two kinds of players out there, Chuck. There's guys who make it look easy like Keith, and there's guys who got to work for every inch like me. I'm in the farthest corner of my home where no one could possibly hear me, not even a dog or a cat that probably has coronavirus.
My apology. We were answering one of our croissant questions, and we were naming our most improved players, and I feel like there was a couple big ones that I should have mentioned. Maybe we all could have mentioned them, but I do feel like of note that we omitted Jason Tatum. I feel like I always forget the guys who are just really good. Jason Tatum is now really good, so he's probably a really obvious most improved player. And also we could shout out the I don't think we did, the Christian Wood, the crucifix.
I think Jason Tatum was a pretty glaring oversight, but then again, anytime you can do something, anything to needle those Boston sports fans, you're doing God's work.
Those pompous pricks.
Barely watched the Celtics this season. I think I traded for Jaylen Brown in a fantasy league a couple weeks before this all ended, and that was when I started watching Celtics. Eastern Conference teams, if you're playing your games at 6 p.m. Central, I'm not seeing a lot of your games. So that in omission there. So I'm sorry, Jason Tatum. I think you're very worthy up there with the Brandon Ingrams.
He made the leap this year more so than the Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram, great season, made an all-star team. Jason Tatum, almost a superstar.
Yeah, could be. And I do love that Brandon Ingram. I think one of my favorite parts of him is just the increase in all the percentages. His free throw percentage all of a sudden being awesome, where it had been terrible basically his whole career, and hitting a bunch of 3-pointers on high volume. So congrats to him. But anyway, sorry, Jason Tatum, for ignoring you, and Christian Wood, who was feasting in the lack of competition in Detroit.
And he beat the virus. And he beat the virus.
He beat the virus. He might have been patient zero because he dunked all over Gobert a few days before.
So hard he gave him the virus.
Yeah. So anyway,
that's how we found out it was an STD, really. And Chuck, before we go, I don't want you to feel too bad about all the nose skullduggery, because you helped replace. We've had a profound lack of games to play in our Patreon only Slack chat. You helped replace it because I was able to make a game out of who could correctly guess just how many times you would go digging.
Which
and the
one
correct
was it?
answer, boys and girls, was 3. I counted 3 for the course of the video. I'm not sure if he got anything, but it wasn't for a lack of trying. So if you guessed 3, and I think Darling did, someone guessed 0. Somebody tried to game the system, but 3 it was, as far as I was concerned.
This was on our Tiger King bonus episode.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, we did. Yeah. If you are a Patreon supporter, if you want an extra episode, we did a book club on the highly academic work Tiger King, and talked about that. So if you want to be a Patreon supporter, you can check that out.
See, Chuck knows he did the picking in the Patreon.
There
Only
go.
A select few, and I do mean few.
There you go. All right, so those were our apologies. Before we get to the rest of the show, we have a few listener submitted questions. The croissant questionnaire.
Oh man, they're gonna really get it this time, huh? Look behind the camera. Sorry, I didn't have it pulled up. Steak Tips Burgundy asks, was Croissant Queries the only name discussed for this portion of the show? If not, what were the other possibilities? Inquirice's Puffs? McRiddles? Breakfast Taco About It? Were there others? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think this just happened. It was based off
of the Croissant questionnaire I once asked Keith on a return trip after he returned from a Vegas Summer League.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like we come up with breakfast pun names all the time, right, and usually forget them immediately.
Yep.
Yeah.
And but this one, we had that, and then someone sent us that. Who sent us the song? That clip with the croissant.
That was me.
So you heard that on the internet, as it were, and then that made that the perfect segment. And the croissant questionnaire has become like a big chunk of the show.
Right. Well, that's how you got to delegate.
Yeah. And segments have died. Like I haven't made a turkey bacon conspiracy in 100 years. The Taco Bell Taco Bell breakfast unsustainable business model, RIP,
was disproven.
It was disproven. Not only
were we wrong, it slaps. That is a hell of a breakfast. I miss it. I might go get it tomorrow.
The segment I miss the most is Chuck's text from a scorned Heat fan.
Yeah.
There actually, for our longtime listeners, a couple episodes ago, there was a callback. We put in the scorned Heat fan music, and I mean, at least 24 of you,
40 people.
We're happy to hear that.
Desperate times, desperate measures. Feeling Minnesota asks, which NBA player other than Kevin Durant would be most susceptible to be converted into becoming Joe Exotic's next husband?
Jonathan Isaac.
Oh. He strikes me as more of a Doc Antle type, believing in the profundity.
Very impressionable young Floridian.
Yeah, I'm going with the often catfished, never not swished Dirk Nowitzki. I think Dirk's my guy there. Even looks the part.
Well, we got to go with a young player, and we got to go with someone tall and handsome. So unfortunately, I got to go with Tyler Hero, because he looks like you could probably be flipped for a little bag of that good, on a crazy Miami weekend. So
I'm just proud of Tyler Johnson from breaking out of Joe Exotic's grips, getting on with his life. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Good for Tyler Johnson.
Yeah, he really come up. When
people do that, where are they now videos for like NBA players like Adam Morrison, it's like, oh, he lost his life. He accidentally committed suicide on the Joe Exotic's bunker.
A question: if Tiger King came out like 4 years ago or 3 years ago, could he have gotten Kevin Durant to stay in Oklahoma? Would the buzz of the show kept him in the greater Oklahoma region?
How is there no footage of some like Nick Collison or maybe a Steven Adams? It feels like a Paul George would have driven down there at some point. Like
Shaq?
a team trip.
Shaq had to release a statement after being kind of outed on that.
Yeah, he was in
I
there.
did not have sex with Joe Exotic. I was not married to Joe Exotic. Everything between Joe and I was up and up, and it was about love for the Tigers. I'm a big cat lover.
Someone in the croissant questions was asking which one of us was most susceptible
Me.
to falling in.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck.
Me. Yeah. I like drugs.
You like a lot of things going on that range.
Yeah. Hey, you know, I'm desperate.
I can see Keith getting led around by Carol Baskin on a leash.
I you know, if I could wiggle my way into Doc Antle's sex cult, I'll take his scraps. I don't care.
Absolutely.
I'll take his leftover Walmart meat.
Yeah. Oh no. Shipped beef. So our next one, it's really basically Joe Exotic Baby Yoder asks.
Shout out Yoder.
And he asks something that we're gonna mutate into a segment of our own.
Mm-hmm.
He asks, what team benefits the most from taking the rest of the season off? So we're gonna create two categories out of this. We're gonna have the Count Your Lucky Charms champs, which are players and teams that are very happy that the season is over. And then you're gonna have your burnt toast bandits, which are teams whose year has basically been ruined by this. So let's do our Count Your Lucky Charms champs first. Keith, who are the teams or players that are happy that this season is over? And this one might hurt you, but I'm ready for you to put a positive spin on
it. Teams that are happy the season is over, the Warriors. I don't think the Warriors had any... Like, Steph Curry was coming back, and that was going to be kind of fun to play spoiler, but they are more than happy for this horrible nightmare season to be over, for possibly no champ to be crowned. They love that.
Yep.
That, right. Like, one of these other good teams isn't going to win the title while they're down, and they can just reload seamlessly for next year. So I guess that's one for me.
And the organization had to be not that happy that he was playing.
No. And they did actually still play a game with a sign that said, don't come in here if you don't want to get COVID. Mm-hmm. Or if you get the COVID, it's your fault. Like, right. But I still think they're happy that the season's pretty much.
Yeah, for sure, because they're going to get the number one pick. They will have, if the season's canceled, next year they have an opportunity to make whatever it is, 6 finals in a row or 5 finals in a row. You know, they've never missed a finals under Steph Curry over the past, 5 years. Right. So there's.
Keith, is your Steph Curry bet stand? Does it roll over to next year?
No, I mean, not if they name an MVP. If they vote on an MVP, I lose out on my 20 units.
Cross your balls, my son. Let's get those units back.
Units!
All right, I'm going to put Keith on the spot. It's hard for me to see a scenario in which the Grizzlies, and more specifically Ja Morant, are not Count Your Lucky Charms champs here.
If the regular season it's cut off, yeah, I think the Grizzlies are saved by the bell there. Right. With Morant wins Rookie of the Year, it doesn't come down to like a photo finish or anything, and probably making the playoffs. They're not going to play enough regular season to lose that 3.5 game lead, and I don't think they're going to do a play-in tourney. So, if the season is over, period, and there's no playoffs, that does kind of stink for the Grizzlies. Like, you make the playoffs, you can't, or you're not in the lottery. You don't have like a 2% chance to jump up in the top 5 or whatever. You just kind of miss out on everything. But if the regular season just ends, yeah, absolutely, the Grizzlies are a winner.
My winner would be the Brooklyn Nets, because they had a shelf year of Kevin Durant, and they got that for free now. If the season plays out the way we think, and there's no playoffs, or there's no, if the season's over, then they got that year on the arm, and they don't have to worry about, having any issues with bringing him back slowly. It's going to be a natural thing for him to recover from that injury. So Brooklyn's
they don't even have to feel bad about firing Jacques Vaughn.
No.
They don't have to worry about him playing himself into a job or a conversation. What about here's what I want to throw out there, guys. I think the Thunder should be counting their Lucky Charms, because I think their schedule got pretty gnarly. They only had like one rest advantage game left. They were playing 15 of their last 27 were going to be road games. This was a team that had really outdone itself, but was still sitting at 5th and looking at a pretty good matchup for them. But I think there's a really, really good chance that they fall behind the Rockets and the Mavs and end up playing one of those LA teams and just getting, completely swept out of here. Whereas as it stands, they finished 5th and have everything to be proud of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did get saved a little bit, but I mean they were also peaking. I mean they've been just amazing, and I don't know how they feel about it. I also think the Spurs are a big winner because they have their playoff streak maybe continued. If things actually get completely shut down, their playoff streak presumably continues despite them missing out. They'll have another shot next year, even though they probably won't be favored to do that. I think all the bad teams, right? I mean, and also we're just all the terrible teams, like the Wizards don't want to play anymore. Brad Beal doesn't want to play anymore. Devin Booker just wants to play video games, I'm pretty sure. Even though the Suns still had a fighting chance.
The Suns had like an outside chance.
They definitely did. Yeah, they definitely did.
I think I want to throw 2 more of the Lucky Charms champs before we run to our Burnt Toast Bandits. I think both the Rockets and the Nuggets might have been spared some playoff embarrassment.
You mean if just the playoffs don't happen, period?
If the playoffs had happened, I think they might have been embarrassed.
Well, I think the Rockets were slumping. James Harden had been bad for the last month, and who knows how far they could have fallen if they maybe would have gone all the way down to 7th or something, if the regular season kept played out that way, and then would obviously have to play.
The bloom was off of the PJ Tucker at center Rose. It was starting to look kind of frightening for them, and then I just really, as much as I love the Nuggets, I just don't look outside of the miraculous Grizzlies playoff finish. I don't see a team that I like them against in a series of 7. So I feel like they may have been spared from some embarrassment. But let's move on to the Burnt Toast teams. These are teams that, really missed out on something special by the season getting, and we're not just talking about, nights out with the family. We're talking about chances at history, chances at money, chances at doing something that they might not be able to duplicate. Keith, who do you have as your Burnt Toast Bandits?
Well, actually, I had a couple. I mean, the obvious ones that you guys can maybe go in on are like the Lakers, the Clippers, the Bucks, all the teams in the title contention. If you lose a playoffs, that's huge. Especially, I've said it several times, the Clippers and Lakers, who made such a massive investment in this year's team by trading away all those future picks for the right to get Paul George and have Kawhi Leonard on your team, and like you have an old LeBron James who was playing one of his best seasons in a few years, and to lose that is that's devastating. So like I hope for them that's like I really hope we get a playoffs just for that. But as far as losing the regular season, like my main losers are individual players. One of them, the guy I mentioned earlier, Christian Wood, who Luder and Riot was putting up 25 points per game for the Pistons. They were losing all their games, but he had another solid month of winning people fantasy championships and was going to be a free agent. He was going to make, I think he would have made a lot more money if he got to play out the season. And also our boy on the Grizzlies, Tyus Jones.
So a lot of contracts.
Tyus Jones had that contract thing. They won one more game. Like he would have gotten $800,000. And then you also have all these players losing their maybe a quarter of their salaries, up to 50% of their salaries. We don't know exactly what it's going to be. I think CJ McCollum said that 1/3 of the players live paycheck to paycheck. And now it turns out, if they could lose, I don't know, let's just guess it's dead in the middle. So that they lose like 38% of their checks. For LeBron James, you're like, that's like $16 million. I know he's wealthy and we should worry less about him, and there's more of the guys like a Tyus Jones who was like, oh, I'm going to make $9 million plus $800,000. I'm going to make almost $10 million. And now it's like, I'm going to make $5 million. That's not as awesome. So I know we're talking about millionaires, but still it's still rough. It's still rough when that's your income and that's what you planned on and budgeted for, to have that all gone.
It's just one less Bugatti, my friends. One less Bugatti. Chuck, what teams do you think are going to rue this day the most?
Yeah, I think when you have LA and the Lakers looking like they were running their operation very well, and you shut it down in LeBron's, I guess you can say the beginning of his late prime or the end of his prime or the beginning of his end or whatever, to pull that momentum out is kind of awful. And some of the younger teams like the Grizz, I know we called them, winners, but to pull all of that momentum that they had, of coming back and beating LA late before the season ended and doing the things that they were doing, that was something that could have, made them, could have solidified them for future seasons. And you've pulled out that experience from that young team that I think, who knows what the ramifications will be after losing this time like that.
I have a few teams I want to throw out.
Yeah.
I think the Pelicans lost a chance at kind of a magical run and like a real like publicity garnering run. And God help us, I think Zion was coming for that Rookie of the Year award.
The Pelicans starting lineup, it's the best 5-man unit in the NBA as far as net rating. It's like their net rating I think was plus 26 or plus 23 or something. And so like we barely got to see that.
And then similarly, I think the Mavs were poised to make some noise. I think they were going to get higher in the standings. I know they had a lot of road games left on their schedule, but the Mavs are better on the road than just about anybody. So I feel like that was a team that I think was primed. I think those were two teams that were really going to make some noise. And then obviously, it goes without saying the LA teams they were just primed.
So that's funny. The Mavs are the team like I disagree with you the most on. I feel like
really?
I would have faded the Mavs the whole rest of the season. Like I kind of hated the feeling I got from that team. It maybe just was because they lost so many close games, and maybe that was just totally random and they were going to start winning close games. But I feel like the Mavs maybe got saved. You get another year of Luka, because I thought they were going to get smashed in the playoffs if they ended up in that 7 seed. But I think you're right. I mean, the other ones. Or another one that we haven't mentioned yet, we're talking about like the win now teams, but there's also teams that had big question marks and have to make big decisions. And like, that's the Sixers, where if we don't get a playoffs or if we get an abbreviated playoffs, if the Sixers have to play like a weird 3-game first round series or like a 5-game first round series and you lose, like, what does that mean? Like, does that mean like, oh, now you have to go through a whole off season of separating Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, or, like you decide we have to do something rash again? Are they going to fire the coach? Maybe they need to fire the coach, but like they have so many question marks. And I know maybe it isn't just that playoff series resolve these things, and maybe a 7-game series wouldn't have been any different, but that's a team that had so many questions and now they probably aren't going to get a good answer.
I think the Sixers are the weird team where it depends on which part of the fan front office equation you're in for whether or not they're lucky or burnt, because there's just a lot of question marks there. I think we didn't talk much about the East, but the reason we didn't talk much about the East is because I think a lot of outside of the Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, I feel like a lot of those teams are somewhat in limbo. I know we're all fans of what the Heat are doing, but I feel like Raptors, Celtics, Bucks, those were the 3 teams that had a chance to go to the finals. And for at least the Raptors and the Celtics, I don't know how assured they are of that moving forward, because Bucks are going to keep getting better. Heat are going to get better. Those might be 2 teams, despite having ascendant stars for the Celtics. That's another team that, like, we saw just last year how things can get discombobulated there quickly. It's just the East, to me, there's not as much to win or lose, or as much to be sad or glad about as in the West, where to me, like, just a lot of opportunities are just gone.
I think I keep coming back to LeBron and being, was he 35? Just like how, like, 17th year LeBron missing out the opportunity. Also, I didn't mention them, but like you said, the Raptors and the Celtics. Right. I think I was going to, if we were going to do playoff predictions as of a couple weeks ago, like I think Raptors would have been like, I probably would have picked an upset there. I think Raptors would have been my finals team from the East, like thinking that they could overcome Giannis and them. But I guess it's all the teams in contention. Like those, if it is the Celtics, the Celtics and the Raptors and the Bucks, and then like probably the Clippers and the Lakers, where you're like missing a year. It's such a big deal. Like missing the chance for a championship when you're there and it's basically wide open. It's not one of those years where it's either coming down to the Warriors or LeBron James. That's tough. Now I'm sad again.
Sorry, boy. Truly, we've lost most of all, haven't we? Podcasters around the world. Poor white podcasters. Brandon asks, the Grizzlies and the Jazz combined to make the best team name Spoonerism. The roll off the tongue, literally and figuratively, the Jizzlies. But what teams would make the second best spoonerism? Then after that, we're going to do which current NBA player has the best spoonerism name. So first, let's find 2 teams that we can combine and kind of portmanteau to make a fun or baffling name, and then we'll do a player. Chuck, who you got on this?
I'm trying to figure this out. I need to take 2 names of 2 teams.
I think you just smash them together. I googled the spoonerism. The
Grizzlies,
spoonerism is
Jazz,
right.
Jizzlies.
Jizzlies.
Just say it. Say Jizzlies over and over.
So, but that isn't a spoonerism. A spoonerism is mixing up the front of the words. Like if you said the Gimphus Misleys.
Yes.
Right.
That'd be a spoonerism. But
yeah.
we could
or the Miami meat.
The Miami meat.
Jazz, Grizzlies. That works.
Yeah.
Miami meat. That's not bad.
The Miami meat.
He wants us to take 2
kind of unbelievable.
Teams.
2 separate teams.
Well, I'll get it started. Yeah. And I'm going to cheat on my first one. Because I feel like we're supposed to use mostly the mascot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've got the Philadelphia 76ers. I've got the Toronto Raptors. Well, I want to use the city and the mascot, and I want to make the Faptors.
Pretty good.
I think that wins. Because I'm confused by the question.
Say that again?
I'm confused by the question.
Well, all right. I'll keep chopping wood. You take your Nuggets, you take your Jazz, you put them together, you get that very well-endowed female ICP fan. Whoop, whoop. You get the Jugettes.
Jugettes, yeah. I saw that one coming.
Keep having it.
Well, what if we take the Lakers and the Cavaliers, and then you can just make you got the Cakers.
Or the Lavaliers.
Or the Lavaliers.
Lavalier mics on this show.
So Cakers and Lavaliers is
Cakers is incredible.
Yeah.
Cakers.
What if we take the Heat and the Pacers? Get that warm, scotchy, algae-infested swamp thing. You get the Pete. I can get with the Pete. Maybe that's the next new one.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
The Hacers? I don't know. That's kind of weird.
We could do the Trailblazers and the Magic and have the Tragic.
There we go. See, you got it, Chuck.
I feel like there's probably a team name with the actual. I mean, the Miami meat. That's the best spoonerism.
Right.
Like the.
What about Country Fried Washington Memphis Combo Gizzards?
Yeah, we could have the Milwaukee Mucks.
Milwaukee Mucks, I'm fine with. That kind of makes me giggle. The Sacramento Sings. They Sings? All right. Yeah. I really should write these down because I don't want to accidentally say anything wrong. Like it turns out you could maybe.
Yeah, you don't want to do anything with the Knicks. That silent K could get you.
Yeah. Are there any names? So I feel like I know when Steak is Burgundy asked us for names, he's very good at this.
Oh, he's a pro.
It seems like he would have one in mind. Oh, here's one.
Most of his questions are to show off some pun he's already made, and I just usually cut out his.
If you combine the Pelicans and the Suns and make the puns?
Oh my! There it is.
Shout out Big Pun.
So let's move on to players. I've got a couple. I've got John Morant and Danny Green can both be unlikely Prohibition-era crime bosses. Ma Durant and Granny Dean.
Granny Dean's pretty good.
I have Monty Python character Rarence Toss. And then I just have the super unfortunately named TJ Pucker.
He's a shot.
TJ Pucker's great. I love that.
Yeah, TJ Pucker.
I'm gonna open a bar in Destin and name it TJ Pucker.
Yeah, you make your own burgers there. You don't have to put pickles on it if you don't want to. You guys got any weird spoonerific players?
We could do Duke Alancic.
Duke Alancic is kind of amazing. Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, the only one I'm thinking of is Jabron Lames.
Jabron Lames is out.
Jabron Lames is there. Bevan Dooker.
It's usually Chuck's wheelhouse, but he
you could do Ye Tung.
Yeah, I thought about Ye Tung also. I was trying to get another player in
Robert.
there with him, combine him with.
Oh, here's one. Lame Dillard.
Oh, there you go. That's a great one. I'm gonna
We're
go
gonna
back.
lose all our Portland.
I view these players as one entity, anyways. Bobias, Tarjanovic.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is my wheelhouse. I have created player mashups going back to Josh Deese, Richard Slow,
Right.
and who else did I did? Kevin Trends, Robin Ocker. What was the one I did?
That's the greatest one, but I can never remember how to say it.
I can't either.
I think it was all of the young Knicks.
3 young Knicks. Yeah.
And somehow it ended up sounding like
Kevo, Trav,
Jim Ross saying Slobberknocker.
How about Sin Bimmons?
Oh, man. Well, that concludes our croissant questionnaire portion of the show. If you want to get involved, join our Patreon. Get down with not just the Heat culture, the Fast Break Breakfast culture. We have a really weird Slack filled with really weird NBA people that you can talk to until the break of dawn, I'm afraid.
24 hours a day goes.
So come in and get some of that good. We got weird stuff happening video and audio wise right now. We are really bored, so we're going to try to help you be less bored.
And also that Tiger King bonus episode is on there. So patreon.com. If you want to support us, patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right. So what was scattered, smothered, covered thoughts in lieu of the steak and eggs and cream of wheat. It feels weird in the pandemic. Maybe we'll come back to it, but in lieu of that, we'll just take a big helping of some scattered, smothered, covered thoughts. We'll kind of go around the table, maybe like a little potluck. You just tell me what you brought. So Chuck, you have a scattered, smothered, covered thought. What's something you've seen out there?
Playing with NBA names, it reminds me of a little song.
Oh, Dinklage, Peter Dinklage, Peter Dinklage. You gotta get metronome. Game of Scones, Chuck?
Yeah. So the world's backwards, and on Reddit, Reddit user PK the Vogs created a wonderful thread that I enjoyed, and I'm going to share as a game of scones. And he did it for opposite day. So we're going to do NBA teams if their names were opposite, right?
Okay.
So I'll give you the easy one. Instead of the Miami Heat, it's the Miami Cold.
Right.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is give you guys the city, and you're going to give me the opposite team name, and I will double check with this list. And when you get it wrong, you get whatever, 5, whatever. We'll just hand out points at random. Who cares?
Do we want to get, we're rewarded for getting it wrong?
No, you're gonna get, if you're wrong, then I don't know. I'm not usually running.
I think he's trying to say strikes. I think he wants to use strikes.
Yeah, we could do strikes or we could do points. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's a pandemic. There are no rules. So,
right.
John, you look more cherubic than usual, so I'll let you go first.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick the Houston. What is the Houston opposite team name?
Let's go with Spelunkers.
The Rockets, the opposite of the rocket is a submarine. John has one wrong.
I was pretty close, though.
You were close. Keith, what do you got for the Grizzlies?
The Memphis. What's the opposite of a bear? I mean, all right, the Memphis Frog?
I mean, I don't know. Very politically incorrect.
It is not the Memphis Twink. It is the Memphis Salmon.
Oh, the natural enemy. I was like cub.
I almost said refrigerator. That was the first thing that jumped in my head. Like, what's the opposite of an animal? I don't know. Like, all right.
Okay.
5 points for me and 5 points for John.
5 points for John and 150 points for Keith. What is Sacramento's opposite team name?
The Queens.
The answer is the Surfs.
The Poppers.
Rough.
This is great, and I love it.
That was a rough fit. I thought you got that one there, John.
That was a rough one. Keith, what is the opposite of the Boston Celtics?
The Welshman? I don't know.
The Romans.
The browncoats,
Okay, all right, the Romans.
the black and tans,
John, what is the opposite of the Chicago Bulls?
the cows.
That's it. We finally got one. 1 million points.
1 million for John.
For John.
Very well done.
Yes. What is the opposite of the Minnesota Timberwolves?
Impossible. Good luck, Keith.
The Dirt Cats.
City Wolves. The City Wolves.
The deer. The deer, because they eat them. John, what is the opposite? What is the opposite?
Is this Reddit user 8? This Reddit user is 8 years old, right?
Does that make the Milwaukee Bucks answer, therefore the Timberwolves?
No. The Milwaukee Bucks answer is the Hunters.
Oh, it's not the Does? I reject this Reddit crap.
Yeah,
How is it not the Does?
All right, we got another one here. What is the opposite of the New York Knicks?
What? Well, what is a knickerbocker? I'm gonna go with. Hold on. Knickerbockers, I believe, are long pants.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with Daisy Duke short shorts.
Actually, the opposite of the New York Knicks is the New York Success.
Oh.
It was a trick one.
Was written by like some Stephen A. Smith acolyte.
Was this people upvoted this, Chuck?
Oh, it was huge. 5,000 upvotes. 5,000 upvotes. Keith, what is the opposite of the Utah Jazz?
The Utah whatever music Keith used to make.
Yeah. I'll go with the Utah Bluegrass.
Close, but not exactly. The Utah Country.
This is so bad.
Wow.
I'm having a blast.
This is the worst.
I'm having a blast. John, what is the opposite of the Charlotte Hornets?
I'm bleeding. You made me bite myself. I'm bleeding. Hornets. I'm going to use Raid. I'm going to use Raid on the Hornets.
Close. The rolled up newspapers.
If you're going after Hornets with a rolled up newspaper,
yeah, you deserve what you get.
You're going to lose.
Right. Keith, what is the opposite of the Brooklyn Nets?
The Brooklyn Nets.
God.
The Brooklyn Brooklyn Sturgeon.
No, it's the Brooklyn Grosses.
What?
John, you know why this is? You know
what's the opposite of net? It's gross. It makes
John,
sense.
Do you know why this is happening?
Oh!
Do you know why this is happening to us?
Is it my fault?
No, this is happening because I said in one of our texts, you know the best way to not lose a game of scones?
Yeah.
Bring your own game of scones.
So current tally, you all have negative 400,000 points.
So, is this what it's like when I try to give you guys clues in Game of Scones?
Exactly.
This is worse than when you give us clues.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
John, what is the opposite of the Dallas Mavericks?
The Dallas White Anglo-Saxon Protestants.
Very close. The
Dallas
Conformists.
Gooses.
Conformists? That's synonymous.
All right.
Keith, the Orlando Magic. What's the opposite?
The opposite of magic. The Orlando Realism.
Close. The Orlando Science.
Oh.
Okay, you guys. This is for the win, John.
For all the marbles.
This is for all the marbles.
Nice.
What is the opposite of the Philadelphia 76ers?
The 2021 impending COVID-inspired, blood-filled American Revolution.
Close. The Redcoats.
Oh, God.
All right.
I thought maybe it was like the 12-15ers from like the Magna Carta.
There's so many more, but we're going to leave that be. That was my very weird Reddit minds game of scones.
That was the worst moment of my pandemic.
You both lost.
This is the